I had a meeting run over and I lost track of time. Well, hopefully that means we're all busy doing business and commerce and everything's good. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it can be tough. Um, so yeah, I mean, tell me what's going on. I know your question was about getting the company formed, right? But what's the bigger picture? What's happening to that, Adriana? Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, obviously, I don't know the details. I mean, I would say it always takes longer than you think to raise money and generate revenue. Um, if you now do you I can't remember. Do you have an entity right now, but we need to convert it into a Delaware C corp? Okay, so we need to convert it. So do we need to convert it, or can we just form a Delaware LLC? Um, I mean, you can have founder. I honestly vaguely kind of remember the family. They've given you some money, right? Uh, okay, okay, yeah. So then we would have to do a cap table for the current LLC, right? I mean, it, I mean, did you paper those agreements? Like when someone gave you money, is there an agreement? Uh-huh. That Sure. So how much did he put in? And then so he wants 10 times his money, which I it's not exactly my area, but I think that's fairly standard. Paid out as kind of a royalty, right? Like a percentage of your profit up to that 10 times. Is there um so question, if it's a royalty, is there a percentage agreed to? And is there a any kind of time limit on when you have to pay back the 10 times or reach? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that can that's interesting. Again, not my area. I'd have to talk to my corporate partners of, if we convert though. So I think we do need to convert because he has that agreement with your LLC. So we need to convert the LLC. So it's just easier if we could just start a Delaware C, right? And be like, this is the entity. But sounds like we need to convert, which is it's a little more costly as long as there's not a ton of shareholders in the cap table. Um, well, he's not in the cap table. He just has an agreement with you, which would transfer, right? I mean, it would transfer with the. Um, but I mean, your family members have given you some money. Are those loans or are those? Okay. Well, I think we would want to paper it and say, hey, we lent you this money, and ideally, what we would do is like put it into what we call as a safe, where they get it's a loan, right? They get interest, you don't pay it. That's the way a safe works. But it accumulates, that interest accumulates. And then when there's a valuation, like, you go down to Mexico and you raise $10 million and the company is now worth $20 million, their loan converts at that valuation with a discount, right? So they only pay. So I think we would want to paper those loans as a safe. Safe is it's kind of the industry standard, just so Audria knows, and then, if you can't raise the 10 million and it all goes belly up, well, everybody, it just goes away. That's why it's a safe. So that is the downside. But doing it any other way, saying, "Hey, I'm gonna pay you back in 2 years." Well, in 2 years, the company probably needs whatever money it has to just keep growing and going. So if we put a term on it, that's the problem. Is yeah, now I got to pay you or I got to renegotiate with you. And really, what I need to still be doing is using any revenue, anything we have. Um, but if you raise the money, the upside is if you raise the money, that everyone with a safe converts plus their interest plus their discount, right? So $100 becomes $125, automatically, right? So I think you would want to kind of paper those loans as safes, ideally. Um, okay. Yeah. What percentages are we talking about to them? Okay, yeah, good. All right, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. 40% for what? But not in your cap table. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's your business plan. That doesn't go in your cap table. Yeah, yeah. No. So it sounds to me like so when you do a safe, by the way, with your family, and you say, you know, you're lending me this money when we do value the company, you get to convert at that valuation with a discount plus your interest. The safes usually have a holdback for employee stock plan, so that's where we would. But I'll tell you, if you just go to like the Y Combinator webpage and pull their sample safe, I think they came up with it. They'll be like, you know, a 10% employee stock plan. You don't want to do that because you don't have a bunch of employees and you don't need 10%, and the 10% always comes out of your half, right, not the investors. So but if we set up it sounds like maybe we could set up a 2% employee stock plan and then award, uh, um, these stock options to these other kind of founders. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't make them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay, yeah, okay. So if we're not going to pay them anything, then yeah, I that's probably not coming out of the stock option plan. So, but you still would want to have like 2% in your agreement. But yeah, in addition to that 2%, we might have to give these guys maybe an aggregate of 2%. Um, and then we've got the safes with your family members. You just have this loan agreement, which is it's coincidentally, I was talking to another potential client today who's got the same type of offer, a loan, 10x return, up to 10x return, um, for a royalty. And it's new to me. Not that I haven't heard of something like that, but when she first mentioned it, I was like, I'm not sure this is a good deal. But the more I looked at the terms, I was like, well, the big, and that's why I asked you. The biggest thing is because, like in her case, she said, "Oh, a 10x return within 5 years," and I was like, "Well, what happens if you haven't returned 10x in 5 years?" But when I actually looked at the term sheet, there wasn't a period like that. It was actually up to, right, up to 10x. This is, a 5% royalty up to 10x, and I was like, okay. I mean, as long as there's not a penalty, and even if there was something like, hey, if you haven't returned, in your case, 1.6 million in 5 years, maybe you've only returned a million, then maybe they have an option, and maybe this is what you were saying, of converting the other 600 into equity. But it can't be like you're in default because you haven't paid them 1.6 million revenue. So we want to make sure this stuff is papered. The loan from with the royalty from this gentleman. Make sure, review that at least if there's already paper, but make sure it's papered. Put the family members on a safe, um, so that concretely they know what their interest is, and then it sounds like maybe assigning, because if we're not going to pay these guys, um, these other founders, and we're going to give them some stock, we need to paper that, and and then do the conversion. Conservatively, honestly, I would say I'd put aside $10,000. I don't know that it's going to cost that. Uh, yeah, but I would think that would cover it, as long as there's not a bunch of back and forth and a bunch of negotiation and all that stuff. That should be enough. Um, and then yeah, you're that Delaware C corp. And then the other thing, it, you know, yes, I have a few um, contacts down in Mexico that I could try to make introductions. I Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Understood. That was my expectation. Well, yeah. I mean, that part I can help with. I can. Hopefully I can't promise, but make some introductions, people to talk to. My biggest client, and I don't, yeah, I don't know what I told you. I mean, my biggest client is essentially, not anymore, to be honest with you, but for decades was really a Mexican company, Mexican business. They were funded by Grupo Picasso, which is Alejandro Barrios' investment arm. Um, but even beyond that, and so they're still active down there. Even beyond that, you know, I think we have like seven Mexican lawyers. They're dual, but they're Mexican lawyers. All they do is business, international tax throughout Mexico, uh, and they know it. They literally know everybody. So I mean, that's not really their business. Kind of the VC side of it. But still, I would think, and I have contacts with law firms and stuff down there. So yeah, let's get this done, and then I would think we can help with some connections at least. Uh, sure, yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah. I would think we could do it within a month. Uh, yeah, no, no, no. No, you being overseas doesn't change anything. On the immigration, so international business, yes, that's what we do. The immigration stuff itself, and I don't know if you were telling me that you don't necessarily have legal status. Of course, if you're back in Mexico, it doesn't matter at that point. If you want to do the immigration, we don't handle it ourselves just because we'd be too expensive. You can get it for less than us, and so but we have we have law firms that we work with that do the actual immigration stuff. Uh, okay. Uh, so yeah, okay. In that case, I don't know. We'd have to find you immigration counsel in Monaco. I don't know if we have those contacts. Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go. Okay. But yeah, I mean my international tax team. That's what they do, right? When you typically Mexico, but it might be China or somewhere else, but or somewhere in Latin America. You've got holdings business, whatever you want to expand internationally, primarily into the U.S. What makes the most sense in terms of where do I have holdings? Where am I making profit? What like that kind of business stuff is what we do. But also like obviously in the US we know how to form companies and do all that stuff. In Mexico in particular, and throughout Latin America really we know how to do it. And then often there's an immigration piece to that. Again, I don't know that Monaco's come up before, but helping again, we don't typically do it, but knowing who to refer you to on the immigration side to work with, we certainly generally have those contacts. I'm sure we can find when the time's right someone in Monaco. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yes, I'll follow up. Um, I mean, I guess the best thing would to do is to prepare an engagement agreement for the things we discussed, right? Safes, making sure this loan is papered, and then conversion, right? And so, yeah, and then yes, it'll say roughly 10,000. So we need 10,000 The way we do it is we put it in a trust, and if we only spend 8,000, then we return the 2,000 to you. So I can write that up because there's other, standard terms of the engagement, all that stuff, so you can see it. And then, yeah, when you're ready, when you feel like, okay, let's do this, you would sign it and, yeah, send in the money, and we would get started on it. Mhm. Oh, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll give you that. Well, you have an LLC, so there would be like a management agreement. And then your articles will do that for you when we create the Delaware C. So yeah, that's a document we would want. Like if you have a management agreement, because we want to, that's part of the conversion, right? We want to reflect whatever that is and what turns out to be the articles. Um, and I doubt in your case it can get complicated when people have been operating as an LLC for a long time, and then we try to replicate it in a C corp. It can be, especially, which isn't the case here, especially if there's already like some kind of stock option. It can be a pain. So, but I'm hoping here it's not. I mean, I think you're kind of new enough, simple enough, if you will, that it. So, um, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye.